board system to ensure players are at the best most times or not, then we tend to struggle. And the very truth is that our competitors are continuously improving. And so it is quite important that at this stage, and we have accepted this as a board over the last 12 months, that we must ensure that our system is robust and could withstand whether scrutiny or the test of times. And I'm quite pleased with the progress we have made there, implementing some systems for cricket development, high performance, introduce female cricket at different levels, um, hosting many camps and ensuring that our tournaments are extremely competitive. Another focus of ours over the last year has been ensuring that our personnel, human capital, is optimized, meaning having the right people in the right positions, understanding their role, and holding each other accountable, right, to excellence in most cases, right? We understand that there are limitations at times with our resources, but that doesn't stop us from, giving our best efforts and aiming for excellence. And that is something that I'm quite happy to see the transformation that has taken place with our personnel at CWI, and that is off the field and on the field. Our governance reform process, I would say, have started to evolve. Recently, at our board meeting and AGM in Antigua last month, we would have approved a few changes to our governance. Um, it's still a long way to go, but with these processes, it takes time. They do take time. So, but we are quite pleased with the strides we have taken. We have listened to the stakeholders, including the leaders across the region, including players, including fans and other administrators, even the media as well. I'm quite happy to see here present this morning. And we have responded. But with governance reform process, it means ensuring that everyone is on board, that there's complete buy-in, and that there's trust in the process. So these changes, people must understand why we are aspiring to get them implemented. And I think we have achieved at least the trust part, and we so far implemented adopted 6, I think, resolutions from the Webby report. That Webby report is available online, I believe. If not, you could always reach out to our communication consultant. I'm sure he'll be quite happy to provide you with that. And you could see a bit more details in terms of those recommendations that were accepted. Um, I'm sure someone from the media this morning might ask which ones weren't adopted. I'd be quite happy to provide that information if asked. But we have made strides with governance reform, and as president, and I know the entire board, we are quite committed to continued um, progress in that regard. We signed an MOU with WIPA, West Indies Players Association, earlier this year. I was quite grateful to President and CEO Wavell Hines and his team at WIPA for their commitment to reaching to the point of that MOU signing. It took us months of exchanges to get to the point where we got to in the end. The players certainly are quite content, quite happy with the result of that MOU. It's not only because of the increased remuneration, but because of all the other areas addressed in that MOU. I must say that I was extremely happy for the women. I think that for me is the highlight of the MOU, to see us really reaching certain timelines where we could achieve equity across the board for both male and female, especially where remuneration. And this is not only for the players, so I'll just give an example so you have perspective. For the original women's tournament, in the past, the umpires in those events, whether male or female umpires, they were receiving maybe about quarter or so of what was paid in men's tournament. Right? What that did was obviously you had more, not necessarily amateur, but people who are not on the panel for umpires. So we didn't have our best officials involved in the women's game. And we all know, I mean, Clint could tell you as a cricket coach, others who've been observing that one bad decision in a player's career, well, it could end a player's career, right? And so we believe that by remunerating those officials, those umpires, match referees, and so on, for women's cricket, it would encourage the senior umpires to make themselves available. So now what we have, similar in St. Kitts recently, with the two tournaments, the T20 and the 50 overs, we had, our top umpires officiating in those games. So it is not just increase for the players, but it's the holistic picture of how we could improve cricket across the board. And I say I'm really grateful to WIPA for coming on board fully and for, after all the deliberations, ensuring that the players were at the forefront of all the decisions. And as I said, to my knowledge, they are quite content with where we are. We have seen some improved performance on the field, and I'm sure that some of these off-field decisions have influenced that. I don't want to touch on cricket too much when I have the technical people on that side, so I'll leave it to Miles and Darren. The World Cup around the corner, a matter of weeks now. We are going to be hosting the World in the Caribbean along with USA. Preparations so far have been steady, I would say. In some cases challenging, but I'm happy with where we are. I think that only one facility in the Caribbean, one country, probably a couple weeks behind schedule, but we have their commitment that they're going to accelerate. It might take some day and night application, but no doubt by June 1st, every country in the Caribbean is going to be ready. I think I need to recognize that Barbados, and it's no coincidence that they got the final, because, I mean, from an ongoing inspection, the team has reported to me that Barbados is well ahead of schedule, certainly ahead of the other countries. And even if you, for the ones who normally observe IPL, you would even see advertisements from, Barbados, place stage in the final and the other matches. I mean, that is very encouraging. And I want to commend the Barbados government and the people of Barbados. And Noel, if you could please convey, my appreciation and recognition for the work being done by Barbados. That would be really appreciated. So far, the uptake of ticket sales is positive as well. It shows that at this point, it indicates that we are going to have, at least the top games are going to be sold out right across the region. A few of the matches are already sold out. I would say that President Acting Calvin Hope has, reached out to Cricket West Indies in a proactive way to ensure that we consider the 2,000 or so BCA members who are quite keen to get into those games. And I think, Calvin, you are now comforted that there's an arrangement in place and that locals are going to be accommodated in those games in premium seats, because it's not just to be accommodated, but in premium seats. And that we are going to be making tickets available at the box offices from, I think, the 24th of this month. April, so box offices across the Caribbean are going to be open, and locals can go and purchase their ticket, because we understand the culture in the region. People prefer to see that physical paper, right, Amanda? Right. So I'm happy with the progress that we have made so far with the World Cup, and it's definitely going to be a spectacle of an event and something we all should look forward to. We At the AGM, every AGM, the tenure of our independent directors end, and we are at the point as a board where we have made the decision for four independent directors who are going to it's going to be effective almost immediately, at least for three. One may have a slight delay, but of those independent directors, two are returning. Mrs. Deborah Coyett Patton and Mr. Hallam Nichols, who is here with us this morning. Those are the two who are returning, and we have two new independent directors. At this stage, I won't call the name. I'll wait. Let the media await the press release from Jamal and his team. But what I want to say this morning is that those two persons are going to be two females, meaning that this is groundbreaking, in that it will be the very first time that there are three females on a Cricket West Indies board. And that is very encouraging. It's a testament to our strides towards inclusivity, diversifying our board, and something that I'm sure that will inspire confidence across the region. I'm definitely looking forward to having those fresh female faces and perspectives in the boardroom sooner than later. Later this month, and there will be a CARICOM cricket symposium in Trinidad and Tobago on the 25th and the 26th of April. And we expected to have about 100 persons in attendance, and that'll be all the regional leaders, legends, board members and cricket administrators across the Caribbean. Also representative from different stakeholders, media and so on. What we expect from that symposium is, at the end of it, for stakeholders to have a fulsome understanding of of the cricket system, the entire landscape of cricket, particularly the dynamics of West Indies cricket. And hopefully at the end of that, everyone would understand the shared responsibility and the role of each of us. We're hoping that at the end of that symposium also, we will have a framework established that everyone could contribute towards a financially sustainable commercial system for Cricket West Indies. And there's great commitment from CARICOM, especially from the chair of the cricket subcommittee, Prime Minister Keith Rowley, who is hosting this event. I expect, like I said, all the regional leaders to be there, and it will certainly be a dynamic 2 days of discussion of cricket. I think it's wonderful that we're at a stage where we could bring stakeholders together and discuss cricket. All right, I'm hoping that in fact, I know there's an agenda item for tourism and cricket. All right, I hope somebody in the audience here would be joining us. We have an expert in tourism in this room. I don't know if you want me to call her name, but I think most of us know her. And I'm hopeful that she will be there telling these stakeholders, explaining to them what cricket means to the Caribbean. And, there's definitely some appreciation of it, but I think that it needs to be ventilated, and more appreciation and understanding need to be given. And not just to cricket, for sports in general, because we have to advocate for sports. So overall, I'm sure I want to leave a few content here for the questions later on. And I know that my colleagues at the head table are ready to get into their presentation, but I'm very pleased, again, with the progress that CWI has made over the last few months, building on the work done by previous presidents. And the board, and generally the cricket administrators across the Caribbean, they are all volunteers, really. And I just want to say that they're volunteers, and they don't get enough credit for the work that they put in, the sacrifices and so on. And I want to thank each of the directors on the board and the other cricket administrators, coaches and managers and everyone who plays a part in domestic cricket, because if we don't have a strong domestic cricket, then the end product of Cricket West Indies will struggle. So I want to use this opportunity to thank everyone for their continued contribution to West Indies cricket. And I'll pause there for now. I don't know if I'm going to pass back to Jamal. And then later on, I'm free to answer any of your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, President Shallow. We now move to Director of Cricket, Mr. Miles Bascom, for his presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamal. Good morning to all the guests present and those who are listening in online. What I want to do this morning is just to provide a bit of context for some things that would have gone before and some things that we would see coming in the short term and even medium term and long term. I think it's important for persons to know that when decisions are being made, that they are being made within a certain context, within a certain framework. And my goal this morning is to generally give a bit of an insight as to what some of that framework looks like. So we have seen increases in prize monies, and that has been across all of the senior domestic tournament. Well, for the women, it's really an introduction of prize monies, as there hadn't been any prize monies in the female tournaments prior to the last tournament just concluded. We will also see going forward an increase in contract, the levels of contracts. And what we would recognize is that what we are trying to create is a performance-based incentive system, right? So that performers, whether it be team performance in the case of increased prize monies, or individual performance in the case of your contract level, or prize monies at tournaments for persons who get the most runs or most wickets, etc. That is the framework that we want to have. We want to have an atmosphere, culture where top performers are incentivized financially to keep putting in those performances. We are also currently working with the West Indies Cricket Umpires Association to develop a similar framework for umpires. So that is one. We also want to have clarity and alignment on brand of play and performance indicators across formats. So what that has looked like so far is meetings with our head coaches, engagement between the head coach, senior head coach, and the territorial head coaches. So Coach Sammy would have met with all of the franchise head coaches leading into the Super 50 tournament. The bonus point system in the Super 50 tournament is very much aligned to the performance indicators for the senior men's 50 over team. This brand and KPIs also has to be documented, because the intention is for us to drive that brand of play, that West Indies brand, all the way down into our age group levels, under 19s, under 17s, under 15s, right? So that we create a brand that all West Indian cricketers play as they come through the entire pathway. The president spoke about systems, and it took me back to a quote from a book that he himself had suggested to me called Atomic Habits. It says that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. right? And we have been putting in work to streamline and align our systems, our high performance systems. I think that is probably the area where we probably need the most work, because traditionally we have not had a high performance environment throughout our cricket system. We have had it in the case of the high performance center that was at Cave Hill. And prior to that, probably the Shell Academy would have been the next closest type of high performance system. The franchise system is intended to be such a system, a high performance system. And we are definitely putting in strides to get that to the level that we would like it to be. We want to ensure that our high performance objectives are met within the franchise system, and especially at our academy, right? And I'm very excited to, the announcement would have gone for our new academy head coach, who brings quite a wealth of experience and was very impressive in his interview in terms of high performance coaching, right? And that is something that we have to keep working with our coaches to ensure that we get them up to a level where they recognize the emphasis that we want to place on skill acquisition and holistic development, on periodized and player-centered programming. We are also going to have a review of our selection system, and that is just to ensure that we have it aligned with the modern game, right? Previously, issues of load management were minor, and now they are central to moving forward in the modern day, in the modern game. Given all of the franchise leagues that are available to players, load management is a key part of managing your talent, right? Scouting, I mean, we've all seen what Shamar Joseph has done, and you would probably need a Guyanese to explain to you exactly where in Guyana that talent came from. And I have no doubt that there are persons equally talented, that may not have been picked up as yet by our pathway systems. And we need to ensure that we have a robust scouting network that would allow us to really be able to access all of the talent that we have in the region, right? And generally, the use of data in talent development and talent management is something that we have to integrate in our selection system, right? The use of depth charts, and this review is going to look at our selection system through that lens to determine what resources we need, what capacity we need in order to be able to implement a modern selection system. The president also mentioned pathway development, right, which is key to our cricket system, right? For the men's, I think we are almost where we want to be. We have players coming into the system formally at that under 15 level, so that picks up anybody from 12, maybe very talented players at 12, but generally from about 13 years. And we have structure for those players, at least a regional tournament, all the way through under 19s. And we have recognized that the under 23 level, we still have leakages in talent at that age group, and we are working to ensure that we have a program that helps to capture those players. So over the next few months and over the next few years, we will definitely be seeing some very deliberate work going into a men's under 23 program. Women's, we only currently have senior women's and under 19. And if we really want to be able to get to the top of world cricket and women's cricket, we definitely need to be able to capture younger talent, have them playing the game at an earlier age, giving them more awareness, earlier skill development, earlier tactical awareness of the game. So we are working to introduce a women's under 16 program, which will begin to roll out this year and evolve into a women's regional under 16 tournament within a few years. Another key area that we have been trying to improve upon is our long-term and strategic planning. Right? We spoke about brand and performance indicators and getting those further and further down the age group pathway as we can. We have to continue to work on our skill development, having shared player development plans, skill camps, more education around load management, and then our opportunities to actually give players those opportunities to play the game, right? So our A-team tours, right? And the head coach will speak a little bit about how we are going to use an upcoming A-team tour to Nepal as part of our preparation for the T20. We also recognize in terms of T20 cricket that we need a way to find our next crop of T20 players, right? We have had success in T20 cricket, and I'm sure that the head coach is anticipating some more success, as we play at home in this World Cup. But we generally still have to work hard at finding our next crop of emerging T20 stars. And there is some recognition that the CPL may not necessarily be where those stars would at least where they would emerge. So we are working with CPL to have an emerging players regional T20 tournament that we are trying to have in May of next year. So that is something that we can look forward to as well. In terms of planning as well, we currently have a complete calendar for the entire men's international FTP, right? With venues allocated that were approved by the board of directors in the last meeting of the board. So we have a men's future tour program that runs up until March 2027. So all of those matches have been allocated to venues. We have a women's FTP up to next year, and all of those matches have also been allocated, as well as our regional age group and senior tournaments. So we do recognize that, of course, that clarity in terms of where matches are being played helps us in our planning and preparation, helps us to schedule camps, and it helps us to plan based on the opposition that we have, where we want to play them. And I must note that in the process of coming up with those venue allocations, it was a very cricket-centered process to ensure that we are playing oppositions in conditions where we believe we have the best advantage in the region. Another key part of what we have done and what we want to continue to do is building capacity, right? Human capacity. We want to have ongoing education for our technical personnel. We want to ensure that we have that growing pool of competent professionals. Again, the academy head coach, the recruitment for that position was heavily based on getting someone who had a lot of experience in high performance coaching, and that is where we want to make the shift to, because we recognize that while we have players who perform well at the regional level, we still are not able to translate that to dominance on the international stage, right? And we think that shift, the shift that is needed there is a lot more emphasis on high performance coaching, skill acquisition, and that very player-centered way of coaching to ensure that we aggregate all of these marginal gains to ensure that we have a very competitive team. The support personnel, physiotherapists and SNCs, we now have a physiotherapist and a strength and conditioning coach with every franchise, and we want to continue to ensure that those persons are pretty much on the cutting edge of those fields, so that continued education will continue with those SNCs and physios, as well as others who we have used in the system from time to time. Pitches and outfields, we know pitches in particular have been a bit of a sore point in terms of our ability to control what we put out. And we have started, we actually just completed a curators workshop in conjunction with the ICC. And while that was very much World Cup focus, the intention is for us to start to have the beginnings of a certificate program. We also are aware that the University of the West Indies is also working to have a similar program, which of course we will be very happy to support and collaborate on. But definitely we recognize that we need competent ground staff and curators if we want to be able to produce quality cricketers, and if we want a quality output in terms of the product that we put on TV screens. We have also started a bit of an informal attachment program. Many of you may have seen, while the West Indies team is on tour, you may have seen a couple of your local coaches on the field. I know Jamal Smith would have benefited from that here. I think Tina Bess as well, with the strength and conditioning aspect of things. But that is something that we want to continue to do, give persons in each territory as the West Indies team moves around, give them a bit of exposure. They get to come in and understand what that senior team environment is like and what best practice in the respective areas look like. We're also trying to build out our technological capacity. We have access to a suite of probably best-in-class software and hardware where cricket is concerned in terms of player management system, in terms of video and data analysis, strength and conditioning testing and tracking. And while we have had access to these platforms for the last few years, we are really yet to tap into the real potential of what this technology offers us. And this access, I must mention, is not limited to these men's or women's senior team. These are software that are available to the territorial boards, to the franchises, right? So we have to ensure that we can optimize this technology. There's so much to be gained from harnessing this technology to the benefit of our players and our technical staff. So quite a lot of what we will see will fall within that framework. Capacity building, that long-term planning, improvement to our pathways and our systems, keep working on our performance-based incentive system. But I think the most important would be that clarity and alignment in terms of brand of play and performance indicators. So that is pretty much what I wanted to deliver. I'd be happy to take questions after. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the DOC, and much in anticipation for the World Cup. We have specially here the white ball head coach, Mr. Darren Sammy, just to give some insights of our preparation thus far as a team for the World Cup. Darren?
Thank you, Jamal. Good morning to everyone. Allow me to start by firstly congratulating the president. Is it 1 year, you said? I probably should do like you and cut off all my hair so nobody sees the grays. But yeah, upon taking on this job, understanding the vision of Cricket West Indies, the outgoing director then was Jimmy Adams, and the vision of the chairman of selectors as well. And for me as a young coach coming into the role, understanding what it would take to help shift the cricket on field, help shift the needle in the positive direction. And for me to do that, I had to, well, not me, but we as the team had to dive into the areas in which we had to improve on the field. And you heard the director spoke about the data, how important it is in this day and age, and having all the systems available to us. It was my job and the rest of my staff to see how we could shift and change the way we do things in the Caribbean. And one of the areas that we venture in is to understanding what it takes to compete at the highest level and be consistently winning games. So we looked at India's domestic cricket, we looked at England, we looked at South Africa, Australia, the top 5 teams in the world, and see what measures they were doing or taking to ensure their players, their regional players, by the time they get to international, what they were doing. So we found out that, and as the director spoke about earlier, we fast-tracked a lot of things in terms of the way we wanted to play. Now, you heard him talk about the brand of cricket that we want to play as a white ball format. Desmond is here, he could attest to that. But our brand needed to be skillful. You know, we needed players that are skillful. You know, when we speak about, you know, the techniques, you know, being able to compete at the international level in various conditions, and we needed to be skillful. Our cricketers needed to be innovative. You see Glenn Maxwell and these guys reverse sweeping for 6 and all these things. These are things that other teams were doing. Yes, they were doing the basics, but they added different facets to the game to help them compete and give them that edge over the other teams. Hence, they were in the top 5. We needed to be adaptable. We play in different conditions and understanding the different challenges that these conditions face. So, and obviously, from speaking to the president and Miles, I mean, if we're not entertaining, we ain't attracting the sponsors. So that part of the brand, one thing that is synonymous to West Indies cricket is the entertainment they've provided over the years. So in doing all these things, we needed to provide the entertainment that would enable us to have the complete package. So last year, Super 50, we went along all those bonus points and trying to put direction to the cricket in terms of what we wanted from a regional standpoint to filter into what we're trying to achieve at international level. I know the challenges that came with that. Obviously, the pitches, we must have the surface to allow us to play the brand that we wanted to play. And I must commend Miles, the director, the different conversations that we've had over the last months, over the last year, trying to make sure that our curators are providing us other players with those type of pitches that allows them to play the brand that we want to play that will enable us to be successful. And we went about that. Obviously, the challenges, taking over a team that was at number 10 in the world. I understand the challenges because the first thing I asked for was for the patience and the wisdom from the Most High to be able to do this job. But if you look back at a year, some of the things that we were able to achieve, I started my journey in the UAE, and then soon after, we went to the World Cup qualifiers, which was very disappointing. But I mean, I've always been one who listened to the doctrines of my parents, and they always say every disappointment is a blessing in disguise. And I think the lack of performance in the World Cup qualifiers allowed some changes to happen and to put more direction into building a team that will help us win in 2027. Now, we are already in 2024. It's just a few years in terms of cricketing planning. It's not a long time. So from that, we were able to implement some changes and look at specific roles. You look at preparation. Is something that we should not mess about with. We just saw Andrew Kohli's team in Australia, doing something that we've not done in almost 30 years. But it starts from the preparation. You look at the 2 tours, the 2 visiting teams we had here last year in India and England. You look at the preparation we put in the camps before that series, and the results that we got in, especially against England. We had guys playing in the team that the last time we won against England, they were not born yet. So understanding that preparation, roles, and one of the things that we as a coaching group have brought about is the culture, understanding what it means to actually represent the crest. Because with so many different avenues to play cricket and make a living out of cricket, sometimes, the window to all these leagues get forgotten, which is still West Indies cricket. Understanding that. So we needed to re-implement, how important West Indies cricket is, not only to us as players, but to the fans and to everybody involved. So building a culture in a team environment that will enable the things I spoke about, dedication to preparation, understanding the different roles required, and with roles comes personnel, and that's the changes I spoke about implementing, and to just understand that we want to create an environment where, or a system where, if Desmond Haynes say, if I call Desi and say, you know what, I need a number 3 batsman, because we have 7, 6 to, depending on whether the HPC or whoever takes part, we have at least 6 persons to choose from every different situation, because the brand will enable us to play a certain way. So from 1 to 11 in franchise cricket reflects 1 to 11 in West Indies at the international scene. So understanding what it takes for an opener in first-class cricket knows what an opener in the international cricket West Indies team is required to do. And basing this type of strategy to enable us to be successful. And it will take some time, but we needed to give direction to our game. Now, to fast track that, I know we have the World Cup coming. And it is something that ever since I took the job, my eyes been set on. It's a great opportunity not only for us as a cricketing nation, but just, you heard the president talk about cricket and tourism. It's just a massive opportunity for all. I believe strongly that my team could win. And the preparation did not only start, is not going to start now. You know, Miles spoke about 18 tours. With conversations with the chairman of selectors, understanding what it would take to win the World Cup. And it is a process, myself as head coach, and with our other coaches, Floyd and Carl and Franklin and all those who've been involved, and especially the analysts, Avanesh, understanding what it will take to win the World Cup and start putting measures in place. So under our leadership, you've seen experience come back. Different roles in terms of different situations where we've been lacking. Before 2023, if I could just go back into my head, we probably scored 4% of our totals over 200. If you look at last year, that rose to almost 40%. We were averaging 150 odd runs in T20 cricket. 70% of our runs now batting is over 170 plus. So we did that by understanding what it takes to win in the Caribbean. Now, for us, having understand that all the games played here, the different venues, and strategic means knowing who to play where, which opposition you'd rather play in these conditions, and understanding, okay, maybe this pitch, 2 spinners pitch. So all this preparation goes into us being successful. And our data collection, to me, it's been most exciting to work with, especially as a head coach. I keep saying, if only we paid more, well, if only I paid more attention to the data when I was a captain, I'd probably be an even better one, because there's so much information involved. And the good thing about it, we made some changes. Rovman Powell became the T20 captain, and his game has just taken gone up to another level ever since he's been captain. So the journey to winning the World Cup, personnel, preparation, purpose. That's the 3 P's I use. Preparation, some of the things that we've done, especially learning from the World Cup qualifiers. You would see we have probably 9 or 10 of our guys in the IPL playing. But these guys have been, we've selected squads, probably exposed about 22 players over the last year in preparation for this main event that is coming. And fine-tuning and giving clear guidance as to what roles are required in the different positions to help us be successful. So you would have seen Kyle Mayers, Johnson Charles, Brandon King. Even last year, I think they used Shoma Brooks. Different guys getting different opportunities over a consistent period of time in different roles. And it has brought us down to probably final 15, 20, 16, 20 players. And it's about fine-tuning now. I'm probably quite sure as to what my World Cup team will be. It's based on the measures that we've taken and the strategic roles that we've given players to do that. We noticed that the ability in the middle overs to play spin was a factor for us. You see the implementation of, or the introduction of Shea Hope into T20 cricket. Nicholas Puran moving from number 5 thereabout to number 3, who is probably one of our best players of spin. And over the last year, where before 2023, where we were averaging 6 or so runs per over, between overs number 7 to 15, where international teams were going at 7, close to 8. We have now changed that to 7 and a little bit. Still, we need some improvement, but the small measures that we're taking and the preciseness in which we are working has enabled us to take little strides. And the experience, we saw the reintroduction of Russell, who's doing really well in the IPL now, part of his preparation as well. We've seen Hetmeyer come back into the squad, although he's not delivered how I want him to perform. You've seen personnel like Shofane Rutherford coming back into the West Indies team based on, and these are all guys coming in based on performances throughout regional and franchise cricket. So it's not a hand-me-down pick. We also see guys like Akil Hussain, who is the number 2 bowlers in the world, and understanding the different roles that he could play, not only as an opening bowler, but middle over bowler as well. We also understand that in the Caribbean, where most teams play 2 to 3 spinners, you saw guys like Moti. You have guys like Hayden Walsh on standby, Roston Chase, all these guys. So a lot goes into our thinking when we select different teams. And with the different venues that we have, Guyana, opener in Guyana, then Trinidad, and then St. Lucia. If you see the different teams that we play, it's right in line with the strength of our team, understanding what it will take, to defeat these guys. And Miles spoke about further preparation for us in the World Cup. We have an 8-team tour. It is an 8-team tour, but more or less we will use it as preparation to give, guys more practice leading up to the World Cup. We have 5 T20 matches versus Nepal. Obviously, they will also use it as preparation for them coming here in the Caribbean. But we will use that to fine-tune 1 or 2 spots missing, and it creates more opportunities for guys to further select themselves. We also have 3 T20s against South Africa just before the World Cup starts. I think that starts on the 21st of May. And whilst we've given all the guys in the IPL both a physical program that was communicated through our strength and conditioning trainer, Ronald Rogers, to make sure that our guys are not burning out. So by the time they come out of the IPL, they're still fresh. Also, James Franklin, who is the bowling consultant for us, he's out there and he's given out bowling workloads. As you've noticed, some of our guys are not playing, but they know on a day-to-day or week-by-week, they have a week-by-week schedule as to the amount of work they have to put in and keep themselves ready, even whilst they're not playing. So just to further elaborate on how important this World Cup is, the director has also, made it very, very easy in terms of the communication, understanding what we need as a team, helping us and putting those measures in place for us, especially with the different camps. Also, we'll have a camp leading up to the World Cup in Antigua, starting on the 10th of May as well. So the biggest thing for us has been preparation, and it shows that when we prepare well, we've given ourselves the best chance of performing. And that is something we as a group have not taken for granted. And that is why throughout 2023, we did not lose a T20 series. Because I see a group of men that really understanding the impact or the effect they could have on us being successful in this T20 World Cup. And some of them are really disappointed that after 2016, we've not been able to put in consistent performance, well, any performance, as a matter of fact, in the World Cup. And when I look at these guys, it is something I've seen before. And I tell them that all the time. It's because I had that team. I led that team for 6 years. And we've taken some of the successes throughout the 2012 and 2016 and implement it into this current team. And yes, I would love to have a Samuel Badri or a Ryan, because I always believe batters win you games, but bowlers win you tournaments. That has been my mantra in 20 cricket, whether it be franchise or international. And I see in Akil Hussain a Samuel Badri. I'm still searching for my Narayan, which had to replace, but the quality of guys that I have, I believe will make it up, because I did not have a Narayan in 2016, but I had a Suleiman Ben that helped us win. So again, it's identifying the different personnel that will be able to fill in the roles And what our team is where our team is really strong is in the engine room. And I call the engine room from number 4 down to number 7, where you have your openers setting up the game. You have your stabilizer in Shea and these guys, and then you have your all-rounders coming in and keeping the pressure on. We saw how we played over the last year, and even in Australia, in different conditions earlier this year, the ability, I think we became the first team really to score 200 plus consistently over in every inning that we played. And yet it was in different conditions, but we showed that from 70 for 5 as a batting group, we could still score 220 odd runs. And the one time we batted first and put our 200 on the board, our bowlers were able to defend it. And in a nutshell, it will take some really good execution from my bowling team, and I do hope that the work that the skills training that program we've given them, by the time we get to the 2nd of June, they would have improved in especially the death overs, over 16 to 20. They would have improved skill-wise, and that would enable us to be more consistent in whether we are defending totals or we are restricting teams. But all in all, I'm quite happy with where we are at as a T20 team, building towards the main event. I see a group of men that believe and operate that like they could win, and to me, belief is a massive, massive thing in any walk of life. If you have the belief that you could do something, then automatically the body reacts to it. So I'm closely monitoring those 9 guys in the IPL, like I said, especially those who are not playing. But because of the programs we've had and the programs we've given them, I trust them to be complete professionals and put in their work. And for the first time, I know Desi probably might have a headache because the amount of players available to us that we could put on the pack is going to be a hard one to pick. The last 2 players will be very difficult to pick to make that 15-man squad, because I'm pretty sure we have 13 guys who've booked their place. But it's just that last 2 that will be very, very difficult. And difficult in the sense that all of them in contention could actually make that 15-man squad. So with that said, it's also almost a year for me as well. And it's a role that I've enjoyed, both the successes and the challenges that it brought. I'm one who not really listen to the noise, but understand the mission or the vision as to what we are trying to do. And once that is clear in my mind, we put our heads down and we work. And the next assignment is winning this World Cup. And all measures that we've taken and the systems that we've put in place is geared towards winning the World Cup. So that's what we have to go and do. That's me.
Thank you very much, Darren. And I think that was quite a comprehensive update and encapsulating perfectly your first year as well, serving as the white ball head coach. I also want to now turn to Barbados, where we have the chair of the National Organizing Committee, Mr. Noel Lynch. He will give us an update as well as the strides that Barbados has made. I am aware that President Shallow later this afternoon will be touring Kensington Oval just to see the progress that has been made. But as indicated earlier, Barbados is certainly ahead, but I would allow Mr. Lynch to give you further updates, elucidate on the progress on Barbados.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Just let me thank you, President Shallow, first and foremost for including us, and I don't say me, for including us, the National Organizing Committee, in today's press conference. Other members of the head table, Mr. Bascom, Mr. Sammy, best of luck to you. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the acting president of the BCA, Mr. Calvin Hope, the most honorable Desmond Haynes, an old and close friend, and the other members of the CWI board. And now, unlike Mr. Sammy and Mr. Bascom, I'll be more in the mode of a T20 rather than a test match. So I will outline to you as succinctly and precisely as I can Barbados' readiness for this World Cup. As we speak today, we are 80 days away from the final in Barbados. 80 days away. We're also 7 days away from the partial handover of Kensington Oval. And just let me say, for the information of everyone here, in 7 days we'll hand over Kensington Oval to the CWI or to the ICC. Now, these are the main elements of Kensington Oval as you know it. On the Eastern Concourse, where there is the party stand and the temporary facility and all those facilities that are coming in, we're sure that we'll hand over those on the 30th of April. But we'll hand over the major parts that you know, the 3Ws, the Greenwich and Haynes, the media center, the field of play, the scoreboards, all of the electronic boards, the lights, everything will be finished within a week and handed over. And I think that's ahead of schedule. I think Barbados has done an exceptional job. It wasn't my job. When I came here, I will tell you that when I came back from the US, we were already very far advanced in terms of the progress, the infrastructural progress at Kensington Oval. I want to commend the team, the chairman of Kensington Oval, Mr. Damien Gaskin and his team, for the outstanding job that they did to bring us to this point where we can hand over that facility even before the time that was already outlined. Now, when I was assigned this task, the Prime Minister, all she said to me was, go and look after Barbados' interests in the World Cup. That's all she said. And we put together a national organizing committee as distinct from a local organizing committee. And I want to be clear because everybody has called me. One man even called me to say, Lynch, you have $50 million to spend and you didn't call me. The National Organizing Committee does not have any $50 million to spend and never had. There's a local organizing committee. If you hold a cricket match, even a food match, you've got to prepare to host it. And therefore, the local organizing committee, as chaired by the BCA, looks after that aspect. Our aspect in the National Organizing Committee is to prepare Barbados overall in a holistic way for the hosting of the World Cup, to ensure that Barbados can exact the optimum benefit at every level from the hosting of the event. It means ultimately that if a Barbadian citizen does not feel that he or she is exacting some benefit, they go away with a bad taste in their mouths. And that is what happened after the 2007 World Cup. That is what happened in some measure after the 2010 World Cup, in which we hosted finals. Prime Minister Motley is intent on ensuring that that not be the legacy of this World Cup. And the word that I want everyone to focus on is legacy. What we're going to ensure that happens is if you are a Barbadian and you are frontline in the actions leading up to this World Cup, that you can exact a benefit. If you're not frontline in it, we want to ensure that you receive a legacy benefit coming out of the World Cup. And therefore, the concept of legacy and making Barbados ready involves a number of activities. But just let me say, the National Organizing Committee has 42 entities on it, both public and private sector entities. It means that everyone from the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., the Barbados Tourism Investment Incorporated, the Town Center Management in Bridgetown, the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, the Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of the Environment, all of the Ministry of Education, everyone that must be in the vanguard of exacting those benefits of which I spoke previously is on that committee, and they come to a meeting every week. Every week they come to a meeting. In addition to that, we meet with the management of Cricket West Indies, Johnny Grave and his team, every week. And we ensure that we are in concert with what they are doing to ensure that Barbados gets itself ready for the World Cup. Now, the legacy of this World Cup will involve a number of variables in a very complex equation. But one thing that's important is you can benefit from the World Cup tourism and hospitality benefits, investment, infrastructure, security, administration, technology. You can benefit from it. But what must be the greatest legacy of this World Cup, in our opinion, in Mia Motley and her cabinet's opinion, is there must be a resurgence of cricket in Barbados. That must be the legacy of this World Cup. I want to repeat, a resurgence of cricket in Barbados, both formal and informal playing and the execution of cricket at all levels. And that's why you see the Ministry of Education, for example, is involved in this process. The Ministry of Culture is involved in this process. Because when Desmond was growing up, you play cricket on the beach, you play cricket behind a house, you play hopping ball cricket, kneeling down cricket, tip for two cricket, house out cricket, cricket blind man cricket, as Calvin said, every kind of cricket. And if you think that the reason that Barbados has produced more cricketers per capita, good cricketers than anyone else in the world, and this is not a boast, is because when I was growing up, everybody played cricket. Man, woman, child, everybody played cricket. And it was part of our being, it was part of our culture. The socio-cultural development of Barbados was based on cricket. Cricket is at the core of everything that we do and everything that we've ever excelled in this country. And that's the reason why Mia Motley and her wisdom has said there must be a resurgence of cricket. One of the other elements of this program that we want to do during the World Cup is to include the legends and the icons of cricket in Barbados and in the Caribbean. Now, I draw a distinction between a legend and an icon. If you play 2 cricket matches for the West Indies, in my opinion, you're not an icon of cricket. You may be a legend. Desmond Haynes is a legend. Sir Wes Hall is more than a legend. They're the icons. Desmond Haynes, Gordon Greenwich, Sir Wes. Those are Joel Garner. Those are icons of cricket. If you play 2 matches, President Shallow, you're a legend, maybe. Possibly you're a legend, but you're an icon of cricket. And therefore, I believe that to have this resurgence, well, Darren Sammy, he's an icon too. He played more than 2. So if you want to be included in, if you believe that you can make this cricket what we want it to be in this resurgence of which I speak, without including the icons or the legends, you are mistaken. Therefore, we are staring down the barrel of a gun in relation to how our people see cricket, particularly our young people. We are in danger of a generation of people not knowing in a couple of years who Sir the Right Excellency Garfield Sobers is. And that would be, in my opinion, one of the greatest travesties of our social and economic development. Gary Sobers is not about playing cricket alone. It is about somebody coming from this 166 square mile rock that can be the greatest in the world at any endeavor. And therefore, I tell you already, there must be a resurgence of cricket based on exposing our legends and our icons so that Barbadians know who they are and what they've contributed individually and collectively to our development. The other thing I want to tell you is the two other things I'm going to cover quickly. There's a greatness program. If you drive around Barbados, there are 15 billboards up, and they talk about preparing Barbados. Those billboards are going to be phased out and are going to be the genesis of what we call the Greatness Campaign. The Greatness Campaign includes some of the icons of cricket, but it also includes a lot of people, and I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. Cricket was the basis and the cradle for ensuring that we had other greats in other parts of our development. And therefore you can see on those boards, you can see faces and images of people that are greats from Barbados in other areas of development, but understand that cricket is at the core of our national development. And that's why we're using this platform to also be able to raise them up. The two other things I'm going to tell you about is in the next week we're going to release an app. You can go on your phone, Android or iPhone, and you will have the Cricket West Indies, the Cricket World Cup app, the Barbados version of it. If you go on that app, you can get everything from hotel booking to buying to a link to buy a ticket. That app will be produced in a week or so, which is going to bring us more into the mode of technology. And then everything that we've done in this World Cup since we took over this role is led by data and data analytics. We do not guess at what we do here. There's no gut feeling in this. Everything that we do is driven by data. And therefore, I know how many tickets were bought already. I can tell you 2,127 Barbadians have already bought tickets for the World Cup. They haven't given me a breakdown yet of each match, but I can tell you how many have been bought. If you buy with a U.S. credit card, I may not know that you use a Beijing. But the point is, I know that you have bought tickets. Mia Molly has made it clear, and I'm going to convey, President Shallow, your sentiments about what Barbados is doing. But she tell me again, 500 tickets per match is not enough for Barbadians to go into the stadium. If the stadium holding 18,000, Mia Molly says she want 1,000 tickets. That it cannot happen in her backyard. At least 1,000 tickets. It can be out of the way. And I'm not putting them to sit down in a place where they can't see the field or not the sun either. You know the best place to watch cricket at Kensington Oval is in the Kensington stand. There's no the Greenwich and here stand. But when I was a boy, that's still the best place to watch cricket. I still can't figure out yet from my mind if people were looking at the pitch side on, how a fella could tell if a fella was LBW or not. But if I was here, and usually 99% of the time he was out. So people in Barbados know about cricket, and they should not be disadvantaged in terms of coming into the stadium. So therefore, the ticket situation is one that must be fixed. Barbadians are, as you said, we understand manual box offices. The fella that ain't got no smartphone is aged out or timed out or scienced out or technologically out must still believe that he or she has access to Kensington Oval to watch these matches. If you go down to the park, to Empire Club, or to St. Catherine or YMPC to watch cricket on a Saturday, you must feel that you can get into this stadium to watch the World Cup. It's our World Cup in our backyard. Yes, it belongs to the ICC and them people. So, President Shallow, thank you very much for the opportunity. Mr. Bascom reminded me of a mantra that I heard some time ago, but I may have gone to the back of my mind, but we should come back to the front of my mind again. Organizations don't rise to the level of their established goals. They fall to the level of their systems. If you don't have correct systems, you're setting yourself up for failure. And in this National Organizing Committee, we've created some good systems. And this is going to be the best World Cup ever. This is going to be the best World Cup ever. And I can close with this. I can tell Mr. Sami something. I, like everybody else, want the West Indies to win. Because it would be very unpatriotic if I didn't want the West Indies to win. But if I were to talk about where I would get the most legacy from, if I were to say what would fuel the greatest legacy for Barbados, not for West Indies cricket, for Barbados, I might not have the West Indies in my equation. But then again, but you will forgive me for that. But I still believe, though, that West Indies could win this tournament. So thank you very much. Good luck to you, gentlemen. And I'll stop there. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lynch. We are going to move swiftly ahead. We now will have the interactions by the media. We are going to ask, we recognize that there are some individuals online joining us via Zoom. We're going to ask, there's a microphone right here for those journalists who are joining us in person to ask questions. We ask that you just remind us, you start by your name and state in the media house, or if you are an independent journalist, we ask that you just start by doing such. But as well, for those who are joining us via Zoom, we ask that you do similar in commencing, as we are hearing and seeing you as well. But we ask that you do state your name and the media house you're representing as well this morning. So I now open the floor to the questions, including online as well. The Cricket Forum.
Good morning, gentlemen. Are you hearing me?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. Dr. Shallow, you referred to the annual general meeting where some resolution were voted down on other term limits and the term limits and the number of years you serve and a few others. What I wanted to ask you, was these decisions unanimous or were they majority? The second question I want to ask is that platforms like the Cricket Forum and your favorite CCP and other YouTube channels, we have re-energized the cricket base in the West Indies. There's no doubt about that. Although you are showing this press conference live on YouTube, when we review it, we are going to get more views than you. So I'm asking you, sir, why is it that these platforms are not engaged in the advertising aspect of the World Cup? And the question for Darren Sammy. A little under a year ago, you
just
said,
the Cricket Forum, we're just going to ask you to hold for the first two questions, and then we will move to the question that you have for
It's just one short for Darren Sammy, and I won't
Mr.
have to talk again. It's just one short one, and I won't have to talk again.
Well, we just want to take the questions from Dr. Shallow first, and then we'll come to your question with Mr. Sammy. Dr. Shallow.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. In terms of the first one, with regards to the resolutions, there were mixed votes in that there were some that were unanimous and there were some that obviously gained the majority, which is 2/3 of the shareholders. I just want to make it very clear that these resolutions, that they take effect from March 2025. I think there was a misconception in some quarters that these would have been in effect immediately. So even with term limits and the extended terms, tenure, period that was being proposed, these were to take effect from the next election, right, after the next election. So there would have been an election, and then these would have been implemented. The other question regarding promotion of the World Cup, I don't know. I have seen promotions on social media platform, and Philip Spooner is here. He could attest to that, correct? They're all over multiple platforms. Exactly. So they're all over. Maybe, probably, I don't know. Probably, hopefully, they pop up on your platform sooner or later. But while on the World Cup, and just in case anyone had this question, I want to reassure the people of the Caribbean, including my good friend next to me, Noel, right, that tickets will be available to people in the Caribbean. There's nothing that limits people in the Caribbean from accessing ticket, right? So I'm hoping that at least 50% of the stadiums across the region will be filled with locals, including Barbadians. And I have absolutely no doubt that regardless who is playing, whether West Indies, India, England, that there are going to be West Indians in these venues. All right, so rest assured, Comrade Noel.
Thank you, President Shallow. One question from the Cricket Forum. I know there was one for Mr. Sami. Do you still want to go ahead with that question?
Yes, Darren, just under a year ago when you took over, you said this train is moving. You are going to create an elite, fit international cricket team. We have looked at your team and we have still see people on the field sapping the energy out of the other players. How far are you away from creating this fit elite team? And why are persons still on the train that you said was leaving?
He said the players are sapping energy of other players. That's what he said?
Yes, we saw players who just suck the energy. Not a few, not majority, but a few. Their body language is not good.
I beg to differ with you, sir. But again, I believe in the process. And once there's a process in the way you do things, they will have progress. Sometimes it's slower than you anticipated, but all the things that we've put in place in terms of the fitness of the players, that's why Miles could correct me. We now have SNCs in all the franchises to make sure that the players coming through understand the importance of representing West Indies and being fit. The scheduling, the load management of all players. I don't see injured men on the park. You know, it's something I was very adamant and clear about. Is that us, the people we put on the park, they are 100% fit and ready to represent West Indies. And the train is still moving.
Thanks for that, Darren, and thank you to the Cricket Forum. I'll now move to the journalists in the room, and I'll ask him to start with his name as well as his media house, despite he is a familiar face.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anmar Goodrich-Boyce, representing the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. My question is for President Dr. Kishore Shallow. You mentioned that there was one country in terms of the preparations that was slightly behind. Could you give us an insight in terms of what's happening on the ground in that country?
I won't state the country at this point, of course, Anmar, but the discussions are taking place with them, and we have the commitment from that government that they're going to accelerate. And it's just, you know, we have all confidence that they're going to deliver, right? By just stating that, you know, probably a week or two behind schedule.
Thank you.
Final question. I'll go to the other journalists in the room before we take back to the screen.
Yeah, Mike King from the Nation Publishing Company. Just a question for Darren Sami. You mentioned some intriguing stats relating to the batting, how the batting has done so well over the last year and a half. Scores of below 150, we're now getting scores of over 170, over 200. I didn't hear any stats though regarding the bowling. The bowling remains a major concern. People who feel that the West Indies will not win are pointing to the bowling. Give me some bowling stats, Darren Sami.
Give me one.
Before you answer that, young Darren,
yes, sir.
People are talking about Shamar Joseph. Would you want to say anything at this stage? Because the general feeling is that we don't have a strike weapon. that our bowling really is not what it should be?
Let me just, I don't want to not give you the exact areas. One of the concerns throughout with our bowling has been the power play bowling. And because we were conceding, averaging about almost 10 runs and over in the power play before 2023 and even during that period. And the lack of taking wickets in the power play has affected the different stages of the game. And again, that's when I speak about the last two picks that we are looking at, is to see which is going to be the final straw. You mentioned guys like Shoma Joseph, who I really hope he gets to play in the IPL, in spite of his exploits in the Test series. Again, we speak of processes and the exposure and the guys that we've given those opportunities over the last year, especially from a bowling standpoint, in which to perform and book the name for that World Cup squad. Shoma brings the pace element. What we watched in Australia, he was very consistent in his line and length, which resulted in wickets. And it's something for 24 balls in different stages of the game that we are looking for. Ideally, Test cricket and T20 cricket it brings two different dimensions. And understanding, I'm not really one who look at the hype. Hype without the substance is still overrated. We've had measures and processes that leads us to the World Cup, the main event that will be on the 2nd. Shoma Joseph is part of that, who fast-tracked his way by his performances. And again, hopefully he gets to play T20s, and we also see what he's capable of doing under pressure every single ball in T20 cricket, because that's what it is. And we select from there. But to further elaborate on your first part, when we've controlled the power play with the ball, we've been successful. That's the beauty and the excitement that it brings to me as a coach. And the guys do understand, because it's something we discuss all the time. You control the power play, both sides bat and ball, you give yourself 70% chance of winning matches. And that's the start for you. Our bowlers have been put under the pump. But so has every single bowling team in the world this year in T20 cricket. The pitches are much better. We were just in Australia. Australia scored 200 2 times, but we scored 200 3 times. Australia went to New Zealand, and again, 200. And they're the number 2 or number 3 team in the world. So understanding the surfaces that we are playing on is not bowler friendly. And that's where the X factor that we have with the bat could give us the edge on wickets that are really favoring the batting. You watch the IPL now, teams scoring 270, 260. The bowlers are under the pump. And it's not just West Indies bowling, but identifying and understanding for us as a group. You control the power play. It means when you come out, batters got to take more chances to get themselves up. And that's where our Motis, our Russian Chase, and these guys, what Moti has bring is, in the middle overs, he's brought wicket-taking option for us. And that's one of the keys in stopping the flow of runs. So yes, we are identifying and still working on how we control that power play. Now, Akil Hussain is the #2 bowler in the world in T20 cricket. He's done the job, but understanding, okay, how can we use Alzari? How could we use Jason Holder, who's used the new ball for us? Obed McCoy, Shamar Joseph, all these guys that are putting the name in there. How best can we use them in order to control that early part so that we could restrict the damage done in the back end? Because I will go even further. When we won 2012 and 2016, we went for runs in the back end. But because we had Samuel Badri controlling the power play overs, the damage done, they were only scoring 170. Unlike when you don't control the power play and the damage is done in the back end, you're chasing 200 plus. So we are aware of it, and I wouldn't say it's a concern, but it's more or less execution. And when we've done it, we've won games. Hence, we were successful in 2023 as a T20 team.
Thank you very much for that, Darren. I know there was one other person on the online before I come back to you, Anmar. Is that person still there? So we're going to move now to them.
Speak. Oh, you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead, Akeem.
Oh, yeah. So since we're still on,
Can you just
Darren,
state the media house you're from, Akeem?
Yeah, Akeem Green, Newsroom, Guyana.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah. So since you're still on, Darren, I just wanted to get some clarity on the aspect of Shamar. From an unfortunate sake that he doesn't play in the IPL before you have to, name your squad for the World T20. You're inclined to potentially have him fill. You spoke about 1 or 2 spots, and you spoke a lot about him being an X factor. You're still inclined to give him that opportunity, even though we haven't seen his credentials as yet in white ball cricket. Just a couple of handful of matches in the CPL and the Super 50 as well.
Well, at this point, everyone is available for selection. Again, we have processes that we follow, and we have an A-team tour coming up. These guys will get the opportunity. We have South Africa as well. They will also get the opportunity. But again, I'm not taking anything away from Shamar. His quality is one of the brightest prospects we've had in a while, especially as a bowler. And I'm pretty sure Desi will allow me to say that he's in contention. But again, it will be a collective decision in the end, which of those fast bowlers will make it into the World Cup team. But I do hope that I get to see enough that will allow me to make a fair assessment, or give me a fair assessment of the skill set of Mr. Joseph in the T20 format.
And to Mr. Bascom, you spoke about the future programs. One would be the upcoming Super 50, and also Mr. Samuel have mentioned just now a tour of South Africa just on the heels of the World Cup. Could you shed some light on if you have cancelled down the venues for that tour of South Africa, and also where is Super 50 going to be played this year?
Okay, thanks for the question. In terms of Super 50, I'll start with that one. We had a pretty successful Super 50 in Trinidad last October. So we are likely to head back to Trinidad for the Super 50. And we are still looking at the possibility of having the final rounds of that tournament played in Guyana. The tour, well, it's not a tour of South Africa, it's South Africa coming to the West Indies for 3 T20 internationals just prior to the start of the World Cup, and those matches are likely to be in Jamaica.
Thank you, Miles. We now move to Anmar Goodrich Boyce in the room again, and then we'll go back online, and then we have another question, I believe, in the room as well.
Yes, my question is for Darren. You know, on the topic of team selection, I just want to ask, you mentioned filling one or two other spots in terms of the team. In terms of players being in contention, is Sunil Narain will be one of those players in terms of experience, perhaps, maybe?
Yeah, Sunil Narain, you know, he's playing really well at the moment, but he's made it clear that he's retired from international cricket, so he's not in contention. Again, conversations when I took over the job, you know, in preparation, knowing that World Cup would be here, these are all guys I had conversations with, Narain, Hetty, Russell, Evan, all these guys. We had conversations, not now, but a year ago when I took on the job. And Narain considered, came back, and said that he's definitely retired from international cricket. So, but again, with that said, I have strong confidence in the men that we will put on the pack. Again, one being strong on belief and on understanding what you could do as a team. And like I said, I've seen this team before. You know, when you look at your guys and you speak to them man to man, I wouldn't say cocky, but there's a confidence within that group that I saw for 6 years, and I have no doubt that they will give a really good showing and play a brand that will enable us to win this World Cup.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you, Anmar. And we have another question in the room. We are going to take that one quickly, and then we have 4 more online, and we will take those as we wrap up this morning's press conference.
All right. Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Vivian Holder. I represent a forum called Anything Cricket Let's Talk. And this question is for the director. Very positive move in having the A-team, T20 A-team traveling to Nepal as part of our preparation. But it begs the question, why Nepal and why not the West Indies, especially being that we are on the doorstep of a tournament that's being played in the West Indies? Would it have been seen as more beneficial to have that competition in the conditions in which the tournament will be played?
Yes, thanks again. Well, we have, as I mentioned, we do have South Africa, who we will play in our conditions ahead of the World Cup. And as I just mentioned, in Jamaica, as you know, Jamaica will not host World Cup cricket, and that is one of the reasons why that venue in particular will be used. And that is the other reason why it is difficult for us to have hosted that A-team tour in the West Indies, because we are aware that quite a lot of our international venues are currently works in progress. And Nepal had actually reached out to us also based on the fact that they are also preparing for the World Cup. And they have a growing population of cricket fans, and you know they were eager to have a full member, albeit A-team, tour because they think that it will do a lot for development of cricket in Nepal. So we are happy to get the opportunity to get in those games. Nepal, the conditions there is just above India. I don't expect the conditions to be much different. We do know of our issues batting spin in the middle overs, and we thought that would be good conditions all the same for us to be able to continue to work on those areas of our game.
Thank you very much, Miles. We now move to Dennis.
1 second.
Sorry, go ahead.
The question was directed to Miles, right? I almost feel constrained to elaborate on this, so permit me, Jamal. But as Miles said, Nepal reached out to us to engage them to play this a team tour, and I commend Miles especially for leading with this arrangement with his counterparty to ensure that this tour takes place, because obviously there are financial implications here. It's an expensive tour for us traveling to Nepal. But from the very start of this dispensation, Vice President Azim Bazarat has been a champion of having our emerging players given the exposure at the international level, especially in T20. We all who have been following cricket and been observing cricket, we realize a deficiency in our under 23 program, I would say. And in the absence of a domestic T20 competition, we thought that this was really a great opportunity to expose some young emerging talent in T20 cricket. So just commendation to Miles and Darren and their team for ensuring that this tournament is being realized. And we were quite hopeful that the players who go there, including some of the senior players, will certainly benefit from this, especially leading them to the World Cup.
Yes, and as a quick follow-up, the director also mentioned the introduction of a new emerging players T20 competition, something that I thought that the region needed for quite a long time. What I would like to find out, though, can you give us some more details on what is the proposal?
Okay, we are still working through the actual format of the tournament with CPL. Obviously, you would know that we would need the permission of CPL, who have very willingly come forward, recognizing that we do need that aspect of development in our T20 pool. Obviously, they know that it would have positive repercussions for them as well in terms of their product. So we are still walking through the details. What I can tell you that it would definitely be regional players only. Whether there is any limitations on age, that is one of the things that we are considering to ensure that it serves the purpose that we want it to serve in terms of being that forum for the emerging players to come through. But what we have identified is that we will definitely play that tournament in the May window post West Indies Championship.
Thank you, Miles. We now move to Garth online. It's Dennis.
Good morning.
Okay,
Good
Dennis,
morning.
go ahead. Go ahead. You can state your media house and go ahead.
Good morning to all. My name is Dennis Heath from the Cricket Show USA. I have two questions. One quick one to Darren Sammy regarding Shamar Joseph. How fully fit or recovered is he?
As far as I'm aware, he's fully recovered and fully fit and available for selection. And I think that's why he was granted an NOC as well to be in the IPL. So he's fit and ready to go.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Bascombe, please. Mr. Bascombe, cricket is often described as a team sport. The increase in levels of contract specifically for individual performances that you mentioned, will be paying more to those who produce more. Will this lead to team friction and bad feeling among teammates? And did WIPA sign off on this level of reward for players?
Thanks again for the question. The increase in contract that would relate directly to the player's individual performance. And of course, within a team context, cricket is unique in that sense, in that you need all of those individual performances for the team to perform well. And you would recognize that the increased incentives, it's not only individual, they're also prize monies in terms of a team incentive. We don't think that we are at any risk of players taking that selfish route, and I really don't see how it would be possible within a team setting. As we listen to the head coach, there is one plan, and every player has their role. So their performance, their individual performance, would be in the context of executing that role, and execution of that role definitely would play into the overall team performance.
Thank you, Miles. We'll now have the last three individuals online as we endeavor to wrap up this morning's press conference. We asked them for their single questions directed to our panelists, whoever on the panelists. So go ahead. I believe the first individual is Mr. Hewitt.
Thank you very much. This is for whether Noel or Kishore, whichever one feels best placed to answer it. But with regards to legacy after the World Cup, we saw it after 2007 and perhaps after 2010 in terms of having brand new stadiums, and upgrades, and then failing to then utilize them effectively after the World Cup. So are there any plans from nation to nation with regards to how to engage the wider public with regards to use of our stadiums outside of a World Cup and possibly outside of West Indies use as well?
And your media house, please. Can you just share that with us?
Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let me say it from this standpoint. If the concept is that one of the legacies or part of the legacy of a global event of this nature is to have a stadium or stadia that can be utilized with the public. The cricket stadium at Kensington Oval is not just for cricket. We've always viewed it as a larger entertainment venue. We are actually sourcing for a couple of $1 million a field covering that is utilized in the United States and in other larger developed countries to be able to protect a field. This is a porous type covering that you can put this down in one day, in 24 hours it can be up again, and you can play cricket or football or whatever the next day. That's the kind of investment that Barbados is making in ensuring that this stadium is ready. But the stadium has always been viewed as a total entertainment package. We encourage people to want to use Kensington Oval for activities outside of cricket. So if that's the question, yes, we'll be ready. But the other thing I want to say, just one other thing, and we're also spending another $10 million at Kensington Oval to establish an indoor cricket facility with all of the trappings of all of the technology you can think of, everything, cameras, computers, whatever else you want, with about 6 lanes. And that is another thing, and also drop-in pitches that are going to be in a facility that's adjacent to Kensington Oval. Now that's the kind of investment that Barbados is making in cricket, because as I said, our legacy is a resurgence of cricket in Barbados, and a stadium that is not only upgraded for the use of cricket, but for any other social or economic use that we have in the country. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Noel. Just to add there, Marshall, for the World Cup, I mean, in addition to unlocking the economic benefits that we know we're going to have from this World Cup, two legacies. One, projects and programs. Projects in the sense of improved facilities, and these are not just playing facilities, right, where the matches are going to be played in the World Cup, but the training facilities also. Each country, each of the 6 countries in the Caribbean, they will be developing at least two other facilities outside of the main stadium where the matches are going to be played. What we expect from that is the very obvious: improve performances from our developing players. I'm sure people like Darren Sammy and other coaches across the region, Clint and the others, are quite excited by the opportunity to be exposed to these improved venues. And millions of dollars are being spent by governments across the region for that. And for me, that is one of the main successes of hosting this World Cup, I believe. But what I would say further, though, and I'm sure this is going to come up in the CARICOM Cricket Symposium later this month, is that we must maintain our facilities, and we hope that budgets are being put in place to ensure that the maintenance of these facilities are there to facilitate future growth of our players, our cricket development. And legacy programs, ensuring that young boys and girls get to get the exposure of seeing international cricket, and all the marketing and promotion which people like Miss Reed could tell us about, that are necessary. And of course, Stephen Leslie, who've been doing a fantastic job here in Barbados as well, to get cricket being enjoyed again at the grassroots level. We have to ensure that the upcoming World Cup help us to continue such promotion, and hopefully at the end of the World Cup, in fact, I have absolutely no doubt that at the end of this World Cup, cricket is going to be significantly more popular in the Caribbean. Maybe I could borrow the word resurgence of cricket in the Caribbean from Noel. But indeed, we're going to see an improved cricket, and more cricket being played at the grassroots level up throughout the region after the World Cup.
Mike, before I come back to you, I know that the DOC has a trip short while back to Antigua, and I'm conscious of time. So I'm going to ask that Garth and Joel are the last two individuals via Zoom, and then Mike, we will come to you for the final question. So these are the final 3 questions. Garth, go ahead.
Good morning, all. Garth Watley, Trinidad Express newspaper. The question is for Mr. Bascom. It concerns player availability. Has CWI had any formal discussions with the core of international players about making themselves available for international cricket, specifically the 50 over and test cricket? And just in addition to that, does CWI have a general strategy for dealing with getting players to be available for international cricket?
Thanks, God. The issue of availability, as I mentioned earlier, is pretty recent, given the rise of these T20 leagues. But what we have recognized that has been working well, at least recently, is communication. Having these discussions with the players very early on, as early as we can, to ascertain, where their opportunities might be and how they may clash with international fixtures, and determine how best we can come to a compromise. So I also spoke earlier about our planning, our long-term planning, and our intention to do a lot more of that, including load management. So those aspects have also helped us in terms of being able to communicate clearly with these players. I must commend the coaches, the head coaches, who have been very proactive in terms of engaging with players to have these discussions. We do know what the landscape is like. We have moved away from trying to be very hard and fast with our players, and which could eventually lead to not the best atmosphere and not the atmosphere that we want to have. Even with our players who are contracted, we have been able to meet them halfway and compromise with them, especially where there is no clash. But the plan is to continue that communication. The lead selector, the head coaches, myself, we will have those discussions with the players, and we would always put West Indies cricket first and ensure that we have a competitive team taking the field.
Thank you, Miles.
Thank you.
And thank you. Joel, can you go ahead with your question, the last question via Zoom this morning, and then we'll have Mike, who's in the room as well.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Hope all is well. Joel Bailey, freelance sports reporter representing wired868.com, and also does work for Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'd asked a question in the chat. I don't know if I answered already, but the Director of Cricket, Mr. Basker, mentioned about the Future Tours program for the men's and women's team. Is he willing to stay the program for the men's and women's teams for this year, 2024? Home and away. Thanks so much, and God bless.
If I'm hearing right, you're asking for the home and away fixtures for 2024?
Yes, thanks. Yes, thanks. Yes, thanks.
Okay, we do have the details, which I expect we will publish quite soon. So I would prefer to send that out. I can send it directly to you if I can get your contact. So I think that might be an easier way to go about it.
Just to confirm to the VOC that the release on Nepal information has gone out this morning as well. So it will be available via CWI's website that you can receive that information, as well as additional information on tours. So that will be available on the Cricket West Indies website. And finally, Mike King.
Just a question for Chairman of the National Organizing Committee.
Can you speak a little closer to the mic, please, Mike?
Yeah, just a question for the Chairman of the National Organizing Committee, Noel Lynch. Can you give me an update, young Lynch, on what we are doing in terms of sprucing up this country as we get close to the World Cup, in terms of beautifying Barbados? And second question relates to those who can't get into the stadium on that big day, June 29th, in terms of their viewing, in terms of large screens or tents outside the stadium. I'm sure you'll want to elaborate on that.
Thank you. Two things. First and foremost, the areas in and around Kensington Oval, within a 1.5 mile radius of Kensington Oval. If you are walking around, driving around, moving around Barbados, you will see that the roads have all been paved. All the roads that you know, Pickwick Gap, Kensington New Road. What we're doing behind the stadium as well, there's the villages and the vicinities in and around Kensington Oval. Kensington has started a Good Neighbor program, and this is one of the legacies of this World Cup as well. And what happens in most of these environments is that whenever there's an event at Kensington Oval, people park where they like, park in people's driveways, whatever else it is. But Kensington is going, apart from cleaning up the place and moving to get the neighbors involved, one of the things that they're also doing is creating a database, a skills database for all the neighbors that are in and around Kensington Oval. Whenever there is a need for anything to be had or done, we want to look first to the people that live closer to the stadium. The second thing is that all of the streets in and around Kensington have already been repaved. There were identified 17 in the city in and around Kensington. We've already paved 12. The other 5 will be done within the next couple of weeks. We fixed all the verges, all the sidewalks. We cleaned up the place. But in and around Barbados, there's another wider program. We're cleaning up all of the Jersey barriers on the highways and re-erecting and putting back on reflectors onto those Jersey barriers. Street lighting in and around the area and around Barbados is also going to be upgraded. If you drive around, they got a lot of new roads around Barbados. People, that's why maybe they got so many accidents. People can now drive fast. Rather than defending against the potholes, I think I understand that the government has already laid almost 228 kilometers of road in and around Barbados in the last couple of years. But if you drive around, you will see that a lot of our roads are being upgraded. In addition to that, the Minister of the Environment is on our committee. They have started a beautification program. They've brought forward what they will usually do in any year and front-loaded that to ensure that Barbados is cleaned up, that the Sanitation Service Authority is also on the job, ensuring that what you will get out of Barbados is a clean Barbados for the World Cup. There are only 9 days of cricket. And these people are going to be here for almost 30 days, the ones who are coming in. Because we have projected, very conservatively, 25,000 extra visitors during this month, which is the trough month, that's the month of June. 150,000 room nights, conservatively at $350 a night. You can do the arithmetic. No, they ain't a maths, that's arithmetic. Maths is about algebra and geometry. I think that's arithmetic. You just got to add, multiply, and subtract and divide. That's arithmetic. When you do that, you will see that what you get out of it is a Barbados that will not only cover its costs, because let me tell you, there are not many global events that can give you back a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of what they've done. In 2007, we spent $166 million at Kensington Oval and got back an immediate return of about $187 million. A lot of people who fixed the garage and the bedroom and all that and said they didn't get visitors then, using them for Airbnb now. So when you think that Barbados got 8,000 hotel rooms, it really has 14,000 hotel rooms, because some of the 8,000 Airbnb villa market comes over into Airbnb and vice versa. And therefore, that was one of the legacies. But also, the best years that Barbados has ever had economically, in terms, and these are World Bank figures and IMF figures, is 2007, 2008, and 2009. And that is real GDP, GDP adjusted for inflation, and GDP per capita, the best years. And that was the major catalyst for that, was a spotlight that was shined on Barbados for a World Cup. Anytime you have a global event and we shine the light on you, we need to see what happens. You know, the Olympics in Rio, them lost money. Paris will most likely lose money. Barbados can make money off of this World Cup. And that's because we expect an influx of visitors. Now let me just tell Mr. Sammy, in 2007, India went out in the first round. Remember the unfortunate incidents that we had? India went out in the first round, then there was some death of a coach, one of the other teams, Pakistan or whatever, so those teams went out in the first round. But let me tell you, if India ever get past this first round and get back into the Super 8s and get here, we ain't got nowhere to put the people, Mike. And we're going to show you a country that's clean, a country that in which everything works. The major areas too, we are creating a fan zone at Pelican Village. Because this is on ESPN, we also will encourage people, if you can't get into the stadium, to mount your own fan zone wherever you are. We don't want you to charge people at the door to come into your house $20 to come and see it. But anybody can see it because it is free, it is on ESPN. And therefore, we want to establish a number of fan zones. We want to do one at Oystins with a big screen. We're doing one at Pelican Village with a big screen and everything else, and encouraging people to be there. And there's a probability that we will do one at Hayman's Market in the north, in St. Peter, so that people in the north can see it. That's our commitment to making this thing happen and making people see the cricket.
Thank you very much.
So you're basically saying, no, Lynch, India West Indies final is what you want.
I ain't saying a thing. I'm only telling you that we get people. You know the defending champions in this T20 World Cup is England. You know that, right?
Yeah.
You heard that. You know that when Englishmen love and women love to come to Barbados. You know that. bikes can't make enough beer. The Pioneer Dairy can't produce enough juices. So imagine, just imagine, I'm just imagining. Could you imagine England in the finals here, or India in the finals here, or both? I mean, you never know what can happen. So I'll leave it there.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador. I'm gonna now turn the journalists in the room. We will be able to speak afterwards with any of the panelists very briefly, but I want to turn to Dr. Shallow for closing remarks for this morning, no, this afternoon's press conference. Dr. Shallow.
Thanks again, Jamal. Again, appreciate everyone being here in person and those online. It's certainly an indication of the interest in West Indies cricket. My philosophy is one I've echoed before, and I'll repeat, is one of inclusivity, right? I have tremendous appreciation for the input of stakeholders, all stakeholders. And I believe that the only way we could advance West Indies cricket and be consistent over the coming years is by a shared understanding and appreciation for West Indies cricket and by working very closely together. I am supported by a competent board, management, and certainly that too is necessary for us to continue to make the progress that we have been enjoying over the last few months. And it is slighted somewhat that over the last year, and I'm sure that most, and probably all, if not at least most of everyone, all the media houses in this room and online, could attest to the fact that the relationship between the players and the board probably is the best ever, right? And that is critical. And, you know, I've seen where we are having those honest, frank conversations with players, being proactive and so on. I mean, even with selection, very sensitive topic. What we have heard in the past is that even though a player has been left out, you don't hear them pointing at my comrade Desi about insularity and those things, you know. And when you have that sort of system where people feel disappointed, I'm talking about the players, of not being included, but could still take it in positive strides, that is how we are going to have an improved system and ultimately produce the desired outcomes that we want, which is consistent success on the cricket field. What I've experienced, and I'm hopeful that most of you share this with me, is that there's an elevated trust and confidence in Cricket West Indies and our cricket. And that in itself is the direction where we want to go. That is something probably I take most comfort in that we have persons who are consistently supporting. And yes, you're going to have people with opposing views every now and then. Like Darren, I stay away from the noise. But I know they're there. But that is all about the passion and interest in West Indies cricket, and we welcome that. And with all the system that Miles and Johnny Grave and the entire team in Antigua and our board and other administrators across the region that we have been rolling out and we will continue to roll out, I sit here this morning quite confident in the future of West Indies cricket. And, you know, to realize another champion, a success at the upcoming World Cup for West Indies cricket, at this point, I divorce the thought of economic benefits to any country. I'm thinking West Indies lifting that trophy in June, and I'm sure that in itself would probably mean more to any West Indian than any return, you know, financial value. And with that, again, I want to just say sincere thanks to all our stakeholders who continue to support and champion West Indies cricket. And rest assured that you have a board who is, you know, making decisions, informed decisions based on the whole cricket landscape, in consideration, of course, with things happening at ICC level and so on, and the franchise, the evolution of T20 cricket and all those things, which we'll probably discuss at another time. But we are well on course to, having a sustainable organization that we could guarantee our children and grandchildren are going to enjoy the legacy of West Indies cricket. So thanks again to everyone for making the time to attend this morning, whether in person or online, and we'll continue to be as transparent and have these sort of opportunities going forward. Jamal, thanks to you and your team for coordinating all of this as well, and we really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, have a good afternoon.